Hello and welcome to yet another episode of Testers Speak, and I'm your host Brajesh De. Today with me, I will be joined by somebody whom I got connected only a few weeks ago, but I was really impressed by the insights that my guest brings in on the show or brings into the table for testers. When we talk about testing, he has got very practical views. You know, he is an expert in the area in which he works on, and he gives very practical insights and asks very practical questions. And as I know him, he's a very down to earth person, family man, a good friend, and I thought it'll be a great opportunity for us to talk about testing and life in general. So today I have the pleasure of presenting to you my good friend Sunny Sachdev. Welcome, Sunny.
Hey
So good to see
Vijay,
you, Sunny.
thanks for those lovely and kind words. I hope I deserve that.
Of course you do. So how are you? How are things with you?
Good, fantastic. It's been like wonderful to be part of TestChat and wonderful talking to you. So thanks for giving me this opportunity.
Well, it is a pleasure and an honor for me to talk to you. In fact, I mean, in the very few interactions that we have had over the past few weeks, I think there is a lot that I have learned from you, and the community is starting to learn from you, and we want others to know about you and all the cool things that you do. So, with that, I will, initiate this discussion uh, by asking you about your journey. So, could you tell us more about how you got started with testing and how's the journey been so far?
Cool. So I'm an accident. Accidentally I landed into testing. I had no clues about it. My father is a businessman. Now he's retired. But overall, the because mine is a business family, so I had this plan to join my family business, and my family business happens to be in the line of construction. So I was very clear that I need to go to either civil engineering or mechanical engineering for that, and that's the reason I opted for mechanical engineering. So for 4 years, I had this thing in my mind that one day I am going to join my family business, and that's the reason I opted for it. But I think destiny had certain other plans for me. So once I cleared the my mechanical engineering, I had two offers. Either one of the offer was for Hero Honda, and the other was from Infosys. So again, when it comes to Infosys, it was not the IT one. It was more on the aerospace designing. They had a very small account from Boeing, right? And it was year 2008. So I was very enthusiastic and interested in designing. So I thought, okay, let me give it a try. So I joined Infosys, and 2008 and 9 recession had surprises and shocks for me. Moment I joined that particular account, within couple of weeks, that account was revoked because of recessions. So I was given actually two offers. Either I go back, and then the other one was I joined CS in IT of Infosys. I had no other plans, so I thought, okay, let's give it a try. So what was taught to engineers, computer science or IT engineers for 4 years, I was being taught in those 4 months. So I had absolutely no interest, no clues about CS or IT. But then I thought, okay, let's take it a challenge. It's not that only me, but a lot of other people are also doing the same thing. So I thought, okay, let's give it a try. A lot of other people were also doing, and in those 4 months, it was the sloggiest week for me. I've never woke up. I mean, never ever slept up at 3 or 4 in the morning. So it was all slog, right? And now I think, or when I introspect, like my career, switch button was with some of the HR Infosys, where he or she pushed the button, and I landed to Infosys Pune. where, next couple of years, it was like a roller coaster journey. I played a part of DBA role. I played a part in maintenance. I played a part in support. And then after a few, months, I one project from Microsoft, and it was a maintenance project for their proprietary tool, which was used for automating their operating systems, right? So, when this term automation, actually caught me ears, because if you know, right, software industry has a lot of inspirations, or, things taken from, manufacturing, or, production. So, for example, in software, we say production environment, in mechanical, we used to say production line. So a lot of these processes like Six Sigma, Kanban, everything, has been inspired, from the manufacturing. And I being,
Yes.
hardcore mechanical, I had so much of interest into, automation kind of a thing. So it caught my ears. I had no formal training about whatsoever, software testing is. But now if I introspect or look back, that was a point where I was part of the software testing, but I didn't even knew it, and I didn't even acknowledge it, because first I had no clues about, there was no formal training sort of it, but that actually started beginning, my career into software testing. After 3 years almost, I joined, Infosys. So I requested my manager that, instead of, giving me, maintaining all those small fixes, let me, take the, I requested him to give me a project where I can, automate all the tasks. My manager said, okay, on one condition, if I clear the ISTQB examination, right? And again, I didn't knew about it. I asked my manager, okay, how do you enroll it? And I think I literally wrote it for a couple of nights, cleared the ISTQB, and then, I got this project where I was, instead of maintaining it, I started automating the tasks, whatever the project guy says. Literally for next couple of months, whatever it takes, day and night, I used to use that tool. Even for the smaller tasks, if I have to do, sending out an email, checking the email, whatever it comes, my mindset was, just automate it. So that's what my mindset was, and that actually made my entry to, testing. And then after almost, spending 3.5 years in Pune, and for this Pune, then I came back to with my family, and I joined one of the, a startup in North. Now it's a very matured company, but I spent almost like 9 months down there, and my role was, I was given the list of, an Excel of test cases to be executed, whenever the release was happening. So I used to question, right, who is creating those test cases? How are we going to test cases? Because I never knew like what software testing was. So, start gradually my, my more in-depth thing started, when I came back north, and, how a fresher or how a less experienced gain from their seniors, right? They try to clone it. They try to uh, copy what their seniors are doing it. But, most of the companies that I have seen is, right, the culture is about testing is you prepare a list of test cases and then, execute it. So that's how I also started doing that. But one way was that, somehow I was not very satisfied. I used to, ask myself, dude, that's not the testing is, or even if it is there, then I'm not liking it. So
Yeah.
I try to contact few of my seniors here and there, but I was not getting the the right answer of it. It's not that you're trying to build up an enterprise application and you're just signing it off by just executing those Excel sheets. A lot of times I used to find some good bugs, but it was not shipped it. Again, my
Right.
mindset was more of a mechanical. I was more of a mechanical engineer, right? So I used to ask myself that let's say government is building up a bridge, right? A new bridge. Let's say, instead of structure, and the deadline is very near. Can you make it open to the public? Can you take that particular risk? That's
Sunny,
how, but in IT, right?
If you could just repeat what you said, because the audio had an issue. There was a break in the audio.
Okay, so I was saying that, a lot of times it happened with me that, I used to find a lot of bugs, which I felt was very critical, but, the product was shipped just like that. I couldn't, understand why it was. I used to always think that, let's say, there's a government of any, state has built up a bridge, which supposed to happen at 12 structures. Because of lack of time, they just added only 10 pillars. Can they open this to a public? Can they take that risk? Right? No, they won't take it. But why we have to compromise with the quality, just because it was not fixed at the last moment? So there was a lot of questions of that sort, that was, compiling on my head, but I was not able to, get the answer. Now, when you don't get the answer, what do you do? But you become restless. And then I quit that company and I joined, the other company, Risk Management Solutions, and I owe to them, the kind of learning that I had in those particular years was phenomenal. If I introspect, I was learning software testing, on the go, and thanks to my, manager down there. So RMS had a very wonderful concept. It was a product-based company based out of US, and they worked on property insurance, right? So they developed a one product which was used by insurance and reinsurance. Now that was a very complex, product. It had all those release notes and documentation was thousands of pages, and literally I read those documents, day in and day out, and I was, because of that particular project, I had this habit of asking, questions. I used to ask so many questions that, sometimes it used to even bother the, developers. But I never, thought that, okay, I'm, bugging them. I used to keep asking my questions, and I had no clue what mind map was at that time because I never learned from it. All my learnings, I would say it happened on the go onto the project. So what I used to did was I took a lot of A4 sheets and colored pencil. I booked one of the meeting room, and on one of the walls, I try to create all the workflow diagrams so that I can understand how the things are flowing between the components. And now if I try to correlate, I was trying to create my own version of mind maps. And again, because I was asking so many questions, which even at the offshore nobody was able to answer, my manager said, okay, why don't you talk to the business folks, and that's where I got the opportunity. There was the first time, when me as a QA, I was talking to business and I was trying to, imagine how end users and what is the, purpose of most of the time, we don't even know why, a particular functionality is come, what is the business use case for it, right? So, as you said, with no formal training, that's how my, on the go, I was trying to learn few of the good practices, after James, I won't say best practices. I would say, I was learning good practices of, software testing. So, and a lot of challenges came up, but then, again, I learned a lot. I was introduced to exploratory testing, in a form of bug bash, where my manager used to say, okay, forget about your documents of test cases. We have a couple of hours before we sign off. And then, you just use the application as you want to go, right? So again, that was my first instance of exploring the exploration testing, how to do that. And then, in a way, he always told that, focus on the release notes. So now if I again, try to correlate, in a way I was trying to learn about the claims testing. I never know all these jargons, but it was just because of a phenomenal culture or phenomenal mentorship that I had in the form of that manager, that I started learning good things about the software testing. So, the journey which started from Infosys and, the other company, I had zero ideas of, software testing. But here, after almost 4 years, I started building my foundation blocks on software testing. Now I think the product was getting more matured, so we wanted to explore about the automation. So my manager called me at on-site. We had this discussion, and he said he's going to hire a different team of automation. So automation was always been a love item for me. So I said, why not you give me a chance? He said, what language do you know? I said, VB scripting, because the tool that I worked previously was supported only in that language. He said, okay, we had this casual discussion on Friday. I still remember that day. And he said, okay, we have this UI. I'm going to start taking interviews on Monday. But before that, it is, on Monday, if I'm able to automate one scenario on Selenium, because at that time, the wave of Selenium had already started up. He said, if you automate this particular workflow, I'm going to take you. So I said, okay, let me give it a chance. So while coming back to the office, I almost, brought the groceries for all those 2 days. And I sat and started learning Java, Selenium, whatever it comes. YouTube was my, first, reference. I still remember, on Monday, that was almost 3 a.m. I had automated it, and I created a video recording and sent to it. I joined back a little late in the office at 12 p.m. And then my manager said, he was very impressed. He said, okay, since I promised you that you'd automate, so now you're going to be part of the automation team as well. So nice. That was, again, opportunity given to me, and I, accepted it my both the hands. From that day onwards, I was doing all the stuff, right? Whether it's exploratory, I was finding out the stories, I was talking to business, and even I was automating whatever it was there. But again, the learning was, the mindset was again the same: automate everything as much as possible, right? So because our product was not that matured, we were migrating it from a desktop to the cloud one. So the UI was very, very new, and it keep on changing. That's where we realized that front end automation, the way we are doing it's not going to work. Better to have establish a pyramid, automation pyramid. So again, I learned about this after making a mistake of doing 100% automation or a large amount of automation. So, but again, the culture of my organization at that time was that it was not like it was very supportive, it was very productive. So they supported me, and then we established a good pyramid. Unfortunately, due to some financial stuff, our team was dissolved, and after spending almost 3 years, it was very hard to say goodbye. But yeah, we had to look it out. Since Selenium wave was at very peak, so it won't take much time for me to grab a new offer. Rather, I still remember that I had a couple of options. I had a couple of offers at that time, and then yeah, I accepted one of the offer from a good company in India, of course. So Sapient Consulting, right? It was a very good company for me. I worked there, as an automation architect, and then implemented a lot of frameworks, learned a lot of new technologies. But still, I used to miss my RMS days where we were talking to the developers, we were talking to the the business, because at that time the automation team used to work on these silos. You had a different team who used to test it functional, and then the automation team used to take a different roles and responsibilities. And there was kind of, we were almost like one. there are incident kind of a thing n minus one. This I realize again the the process or the structure is not good, right? Why there was certain kind of a culture that was developing that if you are not learning automation, British, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, thanks. So there I was observing the fact that people who were doing functional testing, of course after I met you I won't take the term manual testing, but again as I said, I always think that there cannot be a different kind of a work in testing. Testing is testing, right? So you cannot uh, consider one set of people with certain skill set as a superior league, and the other people with a different skill set as a distant inferior cousin, right? That's what I was actually observing myself, so which somehow very disturbed me. I used to ask my manager in general in coffee breaks, right? We used to have this discussion. I used to ask him, right? Can you just give a sign off just on the basis of running the automation, right? He said no. I said then why we are, making such a, creating such a scenario of distinguishing between the people. Why not, we create a scenario or a culture where if someone is good at one thing, let's promote it. But it was not it was not something was happening at my company or my project. I literally started exploring outside how things are going, and I found it's the same, habit, right? So again, happening everywhere. Again, I was very disturbed and I quit it, right? So I said, okay, it's not working out for me. I was trying to explain things, right? Why we should not go heavy on just automation. Why not, instead of working at silos, why not create one single team? And why not, have a culture where testers are encouraged to ask questions, right? Or why developers are given so much of, priority? And you know what? A lot of times, what I have seen that in a lot of companies spend so much of money on R&D just on not on testers. That was the mindset. So that actually again disturbed me a lot. Why this treatment was given to testers, and why not did the company are not doing something which improves the skill set of testers? So I still have those questions, but over like my first half of the career, all things happen in exploring about what software, what were the even I was also a victim of following the automation is good and manual is bad. But later on, when I become more mature, I would say, I started realizing that that's not the thing it is. Software testing is a very broad term. Automation is impacting only a minuscule part of your testing paradigm. Software testing is a very bigger part. The first thing that you cannot automate is how are you going to ask the questions, right? So all these things, I quit Sapien and then joined one more company. And then I in that particular company my role was to build a team from the scratch. So which I happen to be part of that particular company and project. Even right now, we started with only 2 folks, and now we are almost like 80 folks. So I know in and out of the application and worked in a lot of different areas. And yeah, that's pretty much typical. What I spend my time in testing. Most of the time, again I said it was on the job. Learning that I had made a lot of mistakes, but good thing is I got an opportunity and my mindset was more on the doing the experiment. If someone if I'm committing a mistake, then I was relearning it, right? So that was very very important for me.
That is, a wonderful explanation. I think you've summarized, not summarized. I think you've given a detailed description of your career journey, and this, by the way, is a very good thing. I think people who watch it, especially youngsters, would know that there are at times things that don't go the way you want to, and you need to inspect the situation, adapt to it. Secondly, you had the willingness to learn, which is incredible. You had the willingness to unlearn and then relearn stuff. Okay, when you saw that there's something which is not right and something that was done in a particular way, you were always willing to challenge that and then unlearn that bit and learn to do things in a correct way. I think that is very important. And in testing, especially, it becomes of great essence when you try and do this. And you've done this at a very early stage in your career. It takes a lot of people a lot of time to be able to get to a situation where they're actually having the willingness to unlearn and to relearn stuff. Okay, so I must commend you for that. And the very fact that you mentioned some of the things, like for example, you know uh, the situation where automation or 100% automation was everything, and then you went and you made that mistake and you learned. Okay, and this is something very nice, and I think we all can learn from this, that okay, uh, we go ahead and do something and we make a mistake, but it's most important to learn from that mistake, not worry about it too much, not get lost in the thoughts saying, oh shit, what can I do, and things like that. So it's I think that's a very good thing. That's what I learned from it. And then you mentioned a thing that is very close to my heart about people dealing with situation where they consider one type of testing. I will not use the word, okay, because there's nothing called, the hashtag. Okay, so yeah, so I'll just go ahead and use. Okay, so audience can forgive me for that. So manual testing. When we say that, first of all, there is nothing like that. Okay. Secondly, for you to treat somebody who's not using tools, okay, and still trying to test differently than somebody who's using tools is it actually makes no sense to me. Okay, yes, learning tools, learning technology, learning to code is always beneficial. It will help you in testing better. It will help you in communicating with developers better. It will make you more efficient. Okay, you will have a better understanding, but it is only going to help you. It is not going to replace the way you test. Okay, because you cannot, like you said, you made a very good point. You said, we can't automate asking questions. That's a very fundamental thing. I mean, how will a tool ask questions? It's something that we often forget. Okay, we say, okay, I have written so many lines of code of Java and I'm using Selenium. How will Selenium ask questions? Okay, if there is a problem, if there is a situation, how will it will only take a human to interpret that situation and then ask questions from there. So let's not forget that. So that is a good learning. So I'm just trying to summarize the learnings that I had from your experience, and I think this will be very beneficial for people who are listening to you. Now, talking about it, you mentioned something, okay, about you know uh, the way companies operate. Okay, they write a lot of test cases, and you said that a lot of companies do that, and the focus is entirely on a bunch of test cases, passing, failing, and that those test cases, passing, failing, deciding the future of a product. Okay, as such, I want to know more about it. Okay, I want your thought process. I want to know more about this, and I want to understand what other misconceptions have you come across, in the industry. So this being one of the biggest ones, what are the others that you have seen, and how do you think we can handle them as testers?
So apart from it, the biggest misconception that I have seen is, on the, on the coverage part, right? So if I've executed my X number of test cases, that means my, it's the end of the testing, right? Nobody, a lot of projects that I have seen is the progress of your testing is being governed or decided by the number of test cases that have executed. Nobody actually peeps into what kind of test cases that someone has written it. Does it even bother to test those uh, test cases? What are the qualities of those test cases? Have someone reviewed it? That's not a question someone else should ask. That's a question every tester or every the test lead has to ask him or herself, that what are the qualities of test cases they have written. So that is again a lot of that is one of the misconceptions that I have heard. Now everything, there cannot be one solution to all the problems. I think if I compare my days with the company that I work, RMS, and when I compare it with the other companies, it all starts from the culture and the mindset, how you give importance to your quality. Nowadays, I think I'm sure you would have used a lot of social media websites like Facebook. Does Facebook does not have bugs? It's full of bugs. LinkedIn is full of bugs. It all depends upon the mindset or what kind of quality importance you're given to the quality. And if that mindset is there, then you can experiment a lot, and you can raise the maturity level and the skill set, and hence the test craftsman's skill of the team. If you have a good viable environment, dev and tester can work along and along, hand in hand, and a lot of good things can come up. So if I recall, one of the incident that happened, when we're starting about the automation, it's a very small incident, but a lot of learnings for me individually. So when we were trying to implement the front end automation and the UI was, it was developing, testers used to forget about giving the unique ID, right? And we were trying to talk to them a lot, but nothing was improving. They always missed it out. Next time the release comes, since our locators are very fragile, anything, even a small change, our automation was failed. We were not able to give importance to the automation. We were not able to rely on the automation. It was not giving us the faster feedback, as they say. So we escalated to the dev manager and so on. But at that time, automation was very new. Even they were not very serious about it. So when things are not moving, in the way you like, I think people get frustrated. I was too get very frustrated about it. But then, my manager, he was a mentor, the mentor to, and he said, okay, let's do one thing. So one day, around 5 or 6 p.m., he called me up in the office. I mean, I was there in the office. What we did was, we took a printout and we wrote a personal, message to, each of the developers, the front end developers. We said, hey, name of the developer, that, uh, when you have a team of 5 people and everyone taking 4 steps, we together take 20 steps. But if one of the team member is taking 2 steps, we are not achieving the target. By not giving the unique ID, you know, your friends in testing are not able to take 4 steps. These things, and we and we had even gave one chocolate box to each of the developers, right? So at that,
Nice.
and from next releases, it has never ever happened. And the change was that, a lot of times developer used to call us in our seat. He said, this is the diagram, or this is how I'm designing the the front end piece. These are the widgets, and this is how I'm giving the ID. Is it okay for you? It happened and then things were, sprints. They understand our problem, mutually solved, amicably solved. We never had to go back to the any of the developer to say that, okay, please assign those unique ID. What I'm trying to say is, confrontation. I learned from that particular incident that, confrontation is not the way to solve the problem, right? There are certain tactics where, things can be molded in our way. So that was a very good learning. And the other thing is, you mentioned that, a tester, one difference which I felt, between developer and tester is, tester has to showcase its value every single day.
Yes.
No one will come to the developer and asking what you did or what value you're adding to the table. But what tester, it's every day is a new day, And the other thing which I've noticed is, when I was working with a lot of different developers, right, and specifically I'm talking about an enterprise application, developer would always be working on that particular component. He would not be aware of what's happening. For example, let's say, we take a e-commerce application, Amazon or Flipkart. The front end developer, or any, even if you take the API developer of, let's say, who happens to work on inventory, he might not know like how orders are flowing it off, right? So, but as a tester, you have to know in and out of the application how things are flowing. So I use for me it was a very good thing because I I was able to comprehend how business was flowing it up, how the application was flowing up. And then because I had these things, I was asking the right questions, which even dev was, which put dev to think about it. It happened a lot of times that, dev was coming to our seat to ask, what kind of understanding they had for a particular story. What I'm trying to say is, based upon my journey, right? Developer and QA, I mean QA tester specifically, has to learn and earn his respect, And once that
Yeah.
particular thing happens, that bridge happens, then whatever experiments or whatever request that you have, I think nobody's going to deny that. And one
Yes.
more thing, right? I want to bring one more point here, right? We have always talked and discussed, right, how things are going not in a very good way for testers. Partly, you can't clap with one single hand, right? I also feel that, lot of testers, have to again unlearn or learn a lot of things. I We are not adding value to the table when, as a tester, I'm not adding enough stuff or enough information when I'm logging a bug, right? I'm not adding enough value when I'm not helping developer in debugging where the issue is, right? As a
Yes.
tester, I feel I'm not adding value, when I'm not asking right questions or not pointing to the risk. Also, as a tester, uh, I'm not adding value when I'm not looking back to the lot of defects, that data, and not trying to come up with the pattern, or not coming up with how things are working, right? So in one
Yes.
of the projects, we went to defects that we find, and based upon those data, we learned a lot of things. I mean, there was a point when, if you're working with one certain kind of developer for a very long time, I used to know it, right? This particular component, if it's given to one developer, I know he's going to have a lot of defects, right? So it was not an empirical formula, but a kind of a gut feeling. I used to have it. If certain component is going to a certain developer, I need to get ready because, yeah, I can expect a lot of, bugs. So that's a message to the testers, out there, right? Don't blame others as well. Let's put things in our place as well. How, with the current situation that we have, how can we, add more values to the people whom we are working with, whether it's dev or, uh, business folks.
So, some very good points there, Sunny. Once again, to start off by mentioning
Suresh, am I audible? Suresh, I cannot hear you. Hello? 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 I have to again. Hello?
This conference will now be recorded.
Yeah. So what I was saying, Sunny, is that in your explanation, what you mentioned earlier is that it is very important to ask questions. Now, how do you, and you also spoke about testers adding value. So how do you think testers can add value in terms of asking questions, trying to do the right thing, trying to introspect, trying to look back and think through the whole situation. So, what is your thought on that?
There are a lot of ways, in what testers can add value. For example, gone are those days, where testers were not considered, technical. Now testers are self-sufficient, I would say. If they have to build up their own environment, whether any technologies is considered, they can do that. So that's one of the way, I think testers can add value. The other ways is they can lot of time, testers can pair up with developer and co-understand the functionality or requirement and deliver the project, right? So that's another way, where testers can add value. And of course, hello,
Yeah.
yeah. And in my experience, so if I recall, testers, you know, hello,
Yes. Yes, Sunny, I can hear you.
yeah. So I think it's been blocking. Hello, am I
I can
am I
hear you.
audible, Brijesh?
Yes, 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 yes.
Okay, okay. Yeah, so we're discussing about how testers can add value. So testers can pair up with the dev and work together to deliver the story. Testers are now self-sufficient. They can build up their own infrastructures. Whatever things are required, I think testers can now do by themselves, and that's where that's way they earn their own respect from the developers.
Right. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
No, so yeah, so there are some audio issues that we are having. Okay, it's been a little shaky. The network, I don't know at whose end, my end or your end, but we've lost connection, and
So
I just hope that we are able to get the recording properly. Okay, and um, so basically, what we've seen over the period is that there is a lot of misconception that floats around, and we let that misconception carry on and on and on for a long time. It manifests and then it spreads around through the entire community, and then it takes a lot of effort in trying to unlearn and relearn the whole thing. and to change the mindset of the large group of people. Because if you let things manifest for a long time, a larger group of people gets affected by it. And then if you have to change the mindset again, you have to tackle it, with a larger group, which makes it even more difficult. And, for example, when we talk about a simple thing like nothing called manual testing, when we started talking about it, now slowly, the number of people who talk about automation and manual and look at testing differently when it comes to using tools and look at testing differently when it comes to not using tools, we see that uh, the number of people we need to talk to is getting wider and wider, right? So when you talk about such misconceptions, when you talk about such misconceptions, and when you talk about getting rid of these misconceptions, how do you propose to handle situations where things just go beyond?
See, one way is awareness. People will not accept the fact initially. They are going to. You will feel. I mean, of course, you will be facing a lot of resistance even right now. So the only thing that can change people's mindset is the awareness. One of the things that I want to share is it possible I can share my screen? I want to give my thoughts in a better way by sharing one of the things that helped me a lot.
I
Is
can,
it
yes.
possible?
Let me just make you the presenter. Just hang on. I need to make you the presenter, and then you should be able to do it. Yes, you should be good now.
Okay. I hope you're able to see my screen, right?
Yes.
Now, lot of people, say, that's product adoption curve, but in a way, for me, it has defined a lot of things. When it comes to learning or learning, or even the overall, aspect of whether it's a professional life or a personal life, right? So this is usually called production adoption curve. Sometimes it is also called technology adoption curve. But if you see, this curve, 2.5% are innovators. Let's not talk about the percentage, but let's divide them into different quadrants. There's one quadrant for innovators. There's one quadrant for early adopters, early majority, late majority, and laggard, right?
Yeah.
So it's a big answer that I am going to share. So be with me. Sorry for that. Now, if you see that in testing, right? So I'll talk in terms only of testing. So these innovators, right? I consider James, Michael Bolton, and kind of it. They are the innovators in our software testing. They might have experienced few things which are not doing in a right way, or they experienced or discovered few things which are good for the software testing, right? And they belong to this category of innovators. Now comes the second quadrant of the people which are called early adopters, where they analyze that, okay, whatever innovators have done, they should adopt it and implement it. Then comes the third category of early majority of people, right? And then henceforward late majority, and then laggard. So if you see every aspect of your personal life or professional life, or the kind of awareness, or I would say a kind of movement that you have started, right? Initially you will feel resistance, right? Just like these quadrant of people who belongs to the innovators, they aren't they not facing the resistance? Hell lot, I would say. But when, if you are right, in a sense, a lot of other quadrant of people like early adopters will come to you, learn from you, and spread your awareness and movement even further. And then people will come, the third quadrant, early majority. So what I'm again trying to emphasize is, if if one feels that you are right in one particular approach, just do it, right? People will come and join your movement. They will have their awareness. But on the other side, we also have to be cognizant of the fact that there still be a group of people who will, because of n number of reasons, they will provide the resistance. But we, as a part of movement, we don't have to shy away from it, and we have to continue the effort that we are trying to make. It's not just about the movement of nothing about the manual testing, but there are so many other things which bothers software testing as of now. So that's my answer to your question, and I hope uh, I was able to clear it.
Oh, yes, of course, of course. Thank you for sharing your thoughts on that one. I think that was really good. Yeah, so some very good insights that you've given us, and I think we've had a very good discussion in the past hour or so. So I want to ask you something totally different. I want to ask you uh, something more about you. What does Sunny do when he's not testing?
Okay, so if I'm not testing, then of course playing with my kids. And the other thing is I love table tennis. So if I have time, I love to play table tennis. And then out of my own interest in testing, I have a good interest in investment, plus agriculture, farming. So I think once I'm retired, then definitely I'm going to open my own farm. That's for sure. And in fact, 2 years back, I started my own small startup. So which, although it's miserably failed, but again, it was just an experiment, and I learned a lot about it. Now let me tell you one incident about it. You know, people, or the freshers or the juniors who belong to the category of 3 to 5 years, right? In India, if you agree with me, right, these people might belong to the salary range of like 40, 50,000, right? I mean, in general, I know we should not talk about salary, but I'm just sharing you one incident that happened with me. So one of my, in fact, not one, lot of people into that age experience category came to me, and they were asking about how they can, increase their package, or how can they grow in terms of salary and all those stuff. Now, when I was doing my own, business kind of a thing, I tremendously realized the value, of the time, right? So let's say if someone is earning 40,000 and is working for, let's say, 20 days. So what is it? His value? His value per hour is somewhere close to 250 kind of a thing, right? 250 to 60 rupees per hour. That is work, right? Now, what I have seen is lot of people, around those experience age, they're spending a lot of time in hell lot of other activities, right? Netflix, or I think I even don't recall that GOT or PUBG kind of a thing, right? I think Game of Thrones, those seasons and episodes. I have never watched it out, so I'm not. I don't know what it's around. And I have seen that people spending almost like hours and hours watching those seasons. Now, I think one episode of one of the one entire season would be around 5 or 6 hours, maybe. I don't know. But if I take that calculation and multiply by 3 seasons, I'm spending 15 hours. Now multiply those 15 hours by your, hourly rate. I would say, it almost comes about to your entire monthly package, right? So instead of spending a lot of time in binging or other activities, I think one should focus more on how they can grow. I'm not saying be very calculative, be always terms and talks about money, but no. But what I'm trying to say is be very, very you know careful when it comes in spending your time.
Yeah, okay. That's some very wise. Okay, I also spend a lot of time watching movies, Netflix, and things like that. So I'll also have to relook at my strategy, and I'm sure a lot of us will be able to relate
No, I
to
mean what
that
I'm trying to
and be
say
more.
is what I'm trying to say is, plan it, right? Before it's too
Yeah,
late,
of course.
plan accordingly.
Yeah, yeah, of course. No, no. I think what you said is absolutely right. It makes a lot of sense in doing some introspection, trying to understand where we want to go and what we want to do, and if you can make use of optimum use of the 24 hours you have in the day and still achieve the goal, and still if you've got some time remaining, you might watch some Game of Thrones. So that's what I'm trying to say. So if that happens, well, good for you. Well, yeah, because I have this habit of watching a lot of TV and YouTube. I spend a lot of time on YouTube watching a lot of stuff, random subjects, subjects that don't even bother me. Like, for example, something that happened many years ago in Alaska. I will still watch it and I'll try to learn, okay, what happened and what is going on with the nature and things like that. And or all of a sudden I'll develop some interest in going through a documentary about penguins, and I want to know I want to know in what kind of temperature do they survive, and do they always need that Arctic and things like that, or they can survive in a totally different environment, things like that. So it is very different. And interests are quite very random, and a lot of people times a lot of people around me, especially my family, they are confused. This guy, he sort of. If you look at my playlist on YouTube, well, now of course it's dominated by nursery rhymes, thanks to my son. But it used to be a complete hodgepodge. You would not get a clue of what my actual interest is and what I actually want to watch or what type of movie I actually want to watch. Somebody recently asked me what's the genre you want to watch most time, and I was not able to answer that question because I like all kinds of movies. Okay, of course, something light is always beneficial, but I can't tell you. Okay, this is the type of movies that I like to watch, or this is the type of books that I like to read. It's all over the place. Okay, so yeah, that was a very good thing. Sunny, thank you so much for your time. It was very nice talking to you. Some great insights. I think your journey as a tester, your views, I think they are very helpful, not just for youngsters, but for experienced testers as well. And, it was really nice. Uh, Fantastic talking to you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Vijesh, and thanks for giving this opportunity. I've been learning from you and the other amazing groups and members of our tested group, and what you have done actually, it's wonderful. I think you should be CIE, Chief Innovation Enabler. So what you are doing is a fabulous one. You are giving an opportunity for testers to speak it out, which is like they have never got that opportunity in their project. So it's wonderful. What you are doing is amazing and wonderful.
Well, I personally believe that we learn from experiences, and the more we share, the more we know. The more we share with others, the more we get to learn. So I learn from your experience, you learn from other experiences, and that's how it goes. And that's how it becomes better and better. And personally, for me, it is a joy to talk to you, and it gives me a chance to. I will disclose it since we are talking. So one of my aspirations is to be a TV show host. I am trying to live that. I'm trying to live that through these interviews.
Good that you.
I know a TV show host will need a lot more preparation and a lot more formal. But I've never been so formal. Let's be very honest. Whether it's my writing or whether it's this, it is like this. Okay, so so I like this informal setup because we are able to speak from the heart. We can discuss things that we normally don't talk in the office environment, and at work it is very systematic, and you have to talk about think of protocols that you need to keep in mind and things like that. But here you can be open, and you can laugh at certain things, you can make fun of certain things, and still get away because it's you who's talking heart out. So that's something that is there. And since you spoke about test chat, one of the goals that I had, especially with test chat, is based on something that I read, and that has had a huge impact on me, is the Eighth Habit from Dr. Stephen Covey, and where he speaks about finding your voice and helping others find their voice. So test chat is all about that. It is helping, trying to help others find their voice, be able to express and thereby be able to learn. So that's the goal, and I hope we get there soon. So, so yeah.
One more thing.
Sorry, go ahead.
One more thing. Yeah. So one more thing I want to bring it out, right? The culture is very important. I have been part of various different WhatsApp groups, but the culture that we have in TestS is phenomenal. Nobody pushes, anyone legs. It's such a family good culture where everyone are promoting, and they are with the other folk. You remember that what happened to one of the one of our member posts in LinkedIn, and how other people acted and reacted to the other post. So that actually shows that we are more than a family, and that's why I'm saying, right, I'm so happy to be part of this particular group. And it's thanks to you, Adebayo, Faiz, Sachin, all of you.
Yeah, no, we are all one family. So it is incredible to have you as one of our family members. Thank you so much once again for your time, Sunny, this afternoon. I hope you're able to spend some wonderful time this Sunday with your daughter. So have fun.
Yeah.
Convey my best wishes to her, and
Sure.
Let's keep talking.
Cool. Thanks, Vijay. Have a nice day.
Yeah, you too. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.